Hey, everybody. I am so glad that you're here tonight. Thanks for joining in for our latest Pharma live stream. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the inspiration behind the film, our vision for what we hope the film will look like. And we're going to talk about a lot of the shows that everyone is watching right now and movies and why this genre is so popular. We're going to focus on building momentum on that. And we're going to show you a little bit of behind the scenes of what we think is a great first look at what we believe Pharma will look like and some of the inspiration that we have for the film. Right now, I'd love for everybody to post in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, say hello, tag a friend. Please share this so that other people can watch it too. And if you're watching this on Facebook, hit that like button. Just help get us up there in the algorithm so more people are going to see this. And on YouTube, if you're watching, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Did you know that one free way that you can support us is by helping us reach 1,000 subscribers? Why do we want to reach 1,000 subscribers? Because when we do that, we can monetize our videos in order to help pay for the production of the film. So that's one way that you can help that is completely free. So if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe. And if you're watching right now on Facebook, thumbs up, heart, whatever you want to give us and boost us in that algorithm. Say that 5 times fast. Tonight we're gonna have Dory on as well to talk about what it was like when she was writing the script and her vision for seeing it come to life. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our other producer, Dory Zava.
Hello. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Yes.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Hey, Dory, how are you doing
Hi.
today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. So excited to be here and connect with everybody and say hi to everybody. It's been a while. So
It has been a little while. It's been
I
a little
wasn't on
while since
the
our
last
last
one. I missed out on the fun on the last one. So I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, I hope that everybody had a happy Thanksgiving, by the way. I see some of our familiar names in the comments. I see somebody from Texas. Hey, Tim. Hey, Andrew, you made it. So glad you're here. Ramona. I am so glad to see you guys in the comments. Southside Chicago. That's the first time I feel like we've had anybody from Chicago tune in, Helen, at least that we've seen in the comments. So thanks for tuning in. Dory is in Arizona, for those of you who don't know. Dory, what's the temperature there right now?
It's probably about 78,
What?
79. Yeah, it's
Okay, I
nice.
was expecting you to say it was a little colder, because, I'm on the coast of North Carolina, and oh my gosh, we are freezing, and I think it's been in the 40s or 50s, and that to me is absolutely freezing. So if you're watching somewhere and you're up north and you're like, "Ha, ha, ha, ha," or if you're near Dory and it's warm, I'm very, very envious. How's the weather for everybody else? I'm looking over here, catching up with everybody. Awesome. Okay. Dory, tonight we're going to talk a lot about the inspiration for the script. You are the writer. So when did you start writing this project? We'll just jump right into it.
Okay, yeah, I started in 2017, which was quite a while ago. And it was interesting because at the time, there weren't a whole lot of movies and shows that had been made that were set in the 60s. And I also feel like there weren't a lot that had lead women roles. Really showing somebody in our history, a woman who really made a difference and changed the course of history or the course of the world. So when I came across Dr. Kelsey's story, I was just like, wow, how come we've never heard about her? She's played such an important role in actually the history of the whole world, because the clinical trial process that she wrote is used still to this day all over the world for drug regulation. So I had
Well,
that
hold
was
on.
my
Let's back
main.
up for a second because I want to ask, how did you come across her story? Because you didn't know who she was.
Yeah, no, I came across it on Facebook and there was a post there talking about it. And I read it and I thought, how come I've never heard of this story? And then there were thousands of comments on the post saying, I've never heard of this story. I've never heard of this story. And I thought, okay, this is a story that needs to be told, because this was an amazing woman. This was an incredible and tragic thing that happened in the past of the United States. And it seems like a lot of people have never heard about it. So that's how I came across it. And I really felt like a visual format would be a much better way to approach it rather than just writing a book that maybe not everybody would read. I wanted it, my vision was always to have it be theatrical, a theatrical motion picture.
Yeah, well, I mean, stories on the screen are one of the most powerful ways to reach people. And I totally agree with you. I think a book is nice, but being able to see something on the big screen is a way to reach people all over the world. By the way, while we are discussing this, if anyone has questions for Dory during the process and her vision and whatnot, or any questions at all while we're talking, feel free to drop them in the comments and we're going to answer them as we go. But Dory, just so you guys know, is the screenwriter and she is one of the producers on the project. And the story that we're talking about, of course, is Pharma. And Pharma is based on the true story of Dr. Francis Kelsey and the thalidomide scandal. If you don't know much about our project, you can go to pharmathemovie.com and you can learn all about it. Maybe click after this live stream so you can hang out with us. But Dory is telling us a little bit about how she found the story and what her vision was like as she was writing it. Dory, when you said that this would make a great movie as opposed to a book, was there an actor that you had in mind? I mean, did you think of this while you were writing it? Were you like, oh, this reminds me of this show or this actor? Was there any of that going on in your head?
Well, at the time, there weren't a lot of shows that had come out in this time period. So, one of the things I really did think about quite a bit was Madmen. So, if anybody's seen Madmen, it's that whole style of, like the or late 1950s, early 1960s, when women were just starting to get into the workforce and, some of the challenges that they faced with that. And so, that was really more of like, as far as like visually, that was more what I was looking for. Dr. Kelsey, if anybody's seen pictures of her online, is very I don't want to say simple or plain, but she dressed in a way that was just unusual for the time for a
She
woman,
was
let's say.
modest. I mean,
Yes, she was very modest. That's a good way to put it. She had short hair and she was just very much an academic and very used to working in a man's world. So she there's not a lot of that portrayed as well, I don't think, in the 60s, which I think is something that's really interesting about our project is, showing that not all women looked the same way and were all dressed up and had all the makeup and everything like that. So there's just so many things visually, I think, that make this an interesting story. And some of the stuff that we're going to look at today now shows how it's progressed. And at the time when Ashley, you and I first started talking about making this, there wasn't a lot out there, but now more and more we're seeing people interested in this time era and interested in this type of a story. So I think it's
Big
really
Pharma.
exciting and there's a lot of momentum and that's everything that we're going for. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing we really want to discuss tonight is the momentum and the popularity of this genre. Speaking about starting this script in 2017, it was the fall, late winter of 2019, I think, is when I read your script for the first time, which is when I came across it online. And then January of 2020, I called you up and I said, hey, can I option the script and let's turn it into a movie? And that was January. Well, little did we know that in March we were going to have a pandemic and that all these things were going to be happening. And I remember thinking, well, this is crazy, that this is such a hot topic now, and I had no idea. You had no idea when we had started working on the project, and then we were in development. And I remember seeing breakdowns come out for Dopesick. So while we were developing this, Dopesick was starting to be produced, which was really interesting. A lot of people have brought up Dopesick a lot when we're talking about our project, and I think that's definitely something to consider when we're putting this out in the marketplace. Tons of people love Dopesick. This is very much like a prequel because it dates back to where everything started. And I can see that being something that people are really interested in. And on top of that, periods are doing really, really well right now. So I would love to take a look at one of the clips from Dopesick. If people aren't familiar with it, we'll just pop up the trailer and take a look at that. Let me share that with you guys. And Dory, did you ever think, when we were making this because when we were in development, obviously this hadn't come out yet, but had you thought about Dopesick when it came out? Were you like, oh my gosh, now somebody else is doing a movie or a show about this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we started before the whole pandemic, we already were starting on developing this. And so then when the pandemic came and then everybody started talking about the FDA and talking more about drug regulation. And then when Dopesick came out, it was like, oh, wow, this is really something that's top of mind for the public. And our story really is a prequel to everything that happened in the 80s with Dopesick and Painkiller. And it's really showing how the laws that we have in place today, how those came into effect. So it's a really interesting time. And I think it's great to see that people really are interested in knowing more about it.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the trailer. I say that. Here we go.
No, most people don't think about us up there in the mountains. Many of my patients are miners. It's dangerous work, and they carry the burden of building this nation on their backs. They're in pain. These people, my people, trusted me. I can't believe how many of them are dead now.
We got looking at something that could be big.
OxyContin.
Purdue Pharma, they've been marketing the drug as something that's non-addictive, when it clearly is.
All your doctors are going to be asking, how is this even possible? Your most effective talking point are these magic words.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Less than one.
They told me that less than 1% would become addicted.
Crazy.
If OxyContin does what I think it can, it could soon become Purdue's first billion-dollar drug.
And there we go. There's the money, right?
Purdue continues to lie about the drug's safety to doctors, to patients, and the FDA.
Sounds familiar.
We have a major case here.
Addiction rates, overdoses, and crime are on the rise across the country because of this drug.
I think maybe the medicine might be just a tad more addictive than you said.
I can't live like this anymore.
Our community is ground zero for a national catastrophe.
Purdue will not move unless we punch hard.
This is not our fault. These people want to be addicted.
I want top executives to feel some pain.
It's crucial they understand we've created the greatest painkiller in the history of human civilization.
Except it's not an actor.
I think I can make this the biggest drug in the world.
Sounds so familiar. We've read
Gosh,
so many
that's
things.
so chilling.
We've read so many things about thalidomide that just say like it's a wonder drug and it's a miracle drug, and it was touted as suicide proof, and all of these amazing things sound so similar. That's how it's sold to everybody, and then later on it comes out like, oh, okay, it wasn't quite as much of a wonder drug as they pretended that it was.
Yeah, and again, the theme of greed and corruption and power and the lack of accountability. It's insane. At least now, we're seeing some justice from this whole thing. Okay, this is what blows my mind. And this is where I started to get on my soapbox and feel a little bit passionate and heated about this. This is in the news now, and we're seeing a court case happen. It's back in the news. The Sackler family I think they're being prosecuted now, or there's something back in the news. Have you been following this? If you've been following this in the comments, to let us know. But that was what year was that? Was that in the 90s? Is that what we're talking about this happening? Okay, don't quote me on the date, but here's my point. My point is that thalidomide happened in the 60s. And for 60 years, people have been waiting in the US for at least an apology and some recognition. And that to me is just baffling to think that it's been that long that people have been waiting to be recognized. And it's just equally disgusting that we've seen this continue to be a trend where pharmaceutical companies are making a lot of money off of something that's hurting people. So there's a lot of thematic similarities, I think, between Dopesick and Pharma for sure. What do you think, Dory?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's frustrating to see that the same thing is happening, and there were the same things, like you said, thematically in Dopesick and in Painkiller as what I was seeing in all of my research. For pharma, it's a lot of the same things with the pharmaceutical companies providing incomplete data to the FDA, and having a relationship between the two of them that shouldn't be occurring, and the pharmaceutical companies just sort of willfully ignoring signals that this is not a safe drug and signals that this is harming people, and instead blaming it on the people who are taking it instead of taking responsibility for it. So it's just been a constant thing, I think, that we're seeing through the years, and it opens up a really important dialogue for people all over the world to think about, which is, what's going right with this system and what's going wrong, and what steps can we do to hold people accountable to make sure that public safety is first and foremost.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, recently we brought on a new team member, and her name is Jessica. She's backstage. We're going to bring her on in just a second. But it was interesting to hear her perspective, because it was a very fresh perspective, because she just joined the team maybe like 2 months ago. And so I would love for Jessica to just share her perspective of what she thought when you were reading the script for the first time.
When I was reading the script for the first time, okay, my thoughts. Well, one, I was with you, Dory. Like I had not heard of Dr. Frances Kelsey at all until I started working for you guys. So I felt like there was so much to learn, because there is just a lot of history, even outside of what we were able to put in the script and in the film. But yeah, I had also watched Painkillers and Dopesick and all of that. And I think it's just a very timely story to tell, especially, like, we always talk about how it's kind of a prequel to what happened with the opioid crisis. So yeah, I loved it. I also really, I don't know how much of the script we're allowed to talk about though, Dory, because I could I could say some things that maybe I'm not supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about some of it, of course. It's interesting because a lot of people don't realize that in the script, we don't just focus on Dr. Kelsey. We actually talk about all of the different sides of the thalidomide tragedy. So
Right.
that way, it's very similar to Painkiller and Dopesick and some of these other shows, where it's following, a person who's taking the actual medication and how that affects them and their families. And then we're looking at the pharmaceutical reps, and then we're looking at the FDA side. And it's very similar in that sense, although they are different stories, because, we have one, amazingly brave woman doctor at the FDA, Barb Moulton, who ends up becoming one of the first whistleblowers in the US and actually testifies before Congress about the corruption that she's seen at the FDA. And then Dr. Kelsey is more involved with, trying to keep the drug from actually being approved in the US. And then we have a mother who's been given thalidomide, and the struggles that she's facing and the guilt that she feels of, feeling like she did something wrong.
Oh my God. Hold on, Dory, because you talk about Barb. Now that gets me excited, because for those of you who don't know, I am playing Barb in the movie. So I'm very excited about that. And we actually have a scene from Madmen that I want to share that reminds me a lot of when Dr. Kelsey comes to the FDA for the first day. And it's kind of like Barb showing Dr. Kelsey around for the first time. I'm going to share that with you guys right now. And I love what you were saying, Dory, about the contrast between Frankie and Barb. I just think that's something that plays really nicely throughout the script. Okay, here is the scene from Mad Men.
It should be organized, but it's not. So you'll find account executives and creative executives all mixed in together. Please don't ask me the difference. Great. Hopefully, if you follow my lead, you can avoid some of the mistakes I've made here.
Hello, John.
Like that one. So how many trains did it take you? Only one, but I got up very early. In a couple of years, with the right moves, you'll be in the city with the rest of us. Of course, if you really make the right moves, you'll be out in the country and you won't be going to work at all. You'll be here just across the aisle from me. We'll both take care of Mr. Draper for the time being. I don't know what your goals are, but don't overdo it with the perfume. Keep a fifth of something in your desk. Mr. Draper drinks rye. Also, invest in some aspirin, Band-Aids, and a needle and thread. Rye's Canadian, right? You better find out. He may act like he wants a secretary, but most of the time they're looking for something between a mother and a waitress. And the rest of the time, well... Go home, take a paper bag, and cut some eye holes out of it. Put it over your head, get undressed, and look at yourself in the mirror. Really evaluate where your strengths and weaknesses are.
Wow.
And be honest. I always try to be honest. Good for you. Now try not to be overwhelmed by all this technology. It looks complicated, but the men who designed it made it simple enough for a woman to use. I sure hope so. At
She
lunch,
just said
you
they
need
made
to
it
pick up
simple enough for a
box of
woman to
chocolates,
use.
a dozen carnations, and some bath salts. I'll explain later. Thank you, Miss Holloway. You're really wonderful for looking out for me this way. It's Joan. And listen, don't take this the wrong way, but a girl like you with those darling little ankles, I'd find a way to make them sing. Also, men love scarves. Good morning, Mr. Draper. Oh, and Mr. Sterling, how are you?
Morning, girls.
Okay, so there's a couple of things I love about this scene. One is obviously the complete contrast between Joan and Peggy and Madmen. I mean, I think obviously is a little bit comical, and I think that there is a little bit of comedy in Pharma in that regard. We do see Barb kind of poke the bear in different ways and push the envelope a little bit as a woman in the 60s, and she's very vibrant and outspoken. And then of course Frankie, I don't think that she's meek, but she's more of a rule follower. So Peggy's kind of meek in the scene. Frankie's not, but she's definitely more straight-laced and a rule follower. But I love this because they're also talking about the role of women in the workplace and how stereotypical it was. Talking about they made this easy enough for a woman to use this technology, and telling her to go home and assess what her strengths and weaknesses are. It's just a lot of things that I don't think we really talk about that happened in the workplace in the 60s. And it's going to be cool to see it portrayed in a movie today, I think. What do you think of that scene, Dory?
Yeah, I think that scene is great. It's just what I had in mind, basically, when I was writing Pharma. As a lot of people know, I'm also a lawyer, and I have been practicing attorney for 20 years. So I've worked in a field that is very, male dominated, and have had some comments here and there and things like that. And I drew on some of that in in some of the scenes that I was writing, but particularly when I did research on the 60s, I mean, women were just coming into the workplace. So that scene from Mad Men seems very much in line with how it seems like it was. There was a lot of drinking occurring in the office and smoking, and it was just like a totally different time that would seem very unusual for us now. So that's something that I think it's fun to be able to see those differences. And like you said, they'll be like, oh, it was simple enough for a woman to use. And one thing, this isn't too much of a spoiler, but one thing is that it was a challenge for both Barb and Frankie to be called doctor. They were always called Mrs. instead of doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a real struggle for them to constantly have to remind people, hey, I'm a doctor and you should trust my opinion because I am a doctor and it's an educated opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me of another show, and that is For All Mankind. Has anybody watched For All Mankind yet? Okay, this is a no spoiler show, though. We're not going to talk about any spoilers because Ashley has not finished watching it, and I don't want you guys to spoil it for me because I will just be so devastated. But if you've seen For All Mankind, I am on the first season, I think around like episode 4, and I am loving it. But there was an episode recently that I just watched. I know you guys are way ahead of me, but it was about the recruitment of the female astronauts. So this kind of plays into that. And I want to take a look at that scene because not only, do we like it because of it playing on, I guess, the way that it worked and the way that it was and it was working in the workplace at that time, but it's also visually something that we'd like to bring in to Pharma, not just talking about the different ways that women were treated, but also the visual aspect of it. So here is a scene from For All Mankind. Again, no spoilers. This is only like the 3rd episode. Do not ruin this for me in the comments.
Molly Cobb set aviation records for long-distance solo flight, won several racing awards, qualified in single and multi-engine aircraft, and was first in her class in Mercury 13, but she's not really what the president's looking for.
The hell does that mean?
I mean, she's a bit rough around the edges. We need Marlo Thomas, not Danny Thomas.
Jesus Christ, Shorty, this isn't a beauty contest.
I'm telling you, the president is going to want a more enticing woman to be America's first moon maiden.
Moon maiden?
I'm working on a press release.
Keep working. Well, maybe she'll get lucky and wash out in favor of a Playmate of the Month. But for now... Patty Doyle, only other member of the Mercury 13 still flying, mainly helicopters. She passed the Mercury test with flying colors, finished 2nd in her class behind Cobb.
She'll do.
Danielle Poole, 25 years old, has a bachelor's of math and science.
Perfect. She's in.
Hang on. I'm not letting her in just because she's black.
That's exactly why you're letting her in. I do not need Jesse Jackson up my ass, or Ralph Abernathy back here with his damn mules making all that commotion. This time we're getting ahead of the story.
She's got 1,500 hours in the year, a commercial pilot's license, and she already works here at NASA. She's an engineer, over with the computer ladies.
You see?
Figures.
Fine. Okay. That's our group.
Okay, hold on. I want to pause on that scene right there, just because if you look at the pictures on the board, this is definitely a visual element that we wanted to bring into the film, because we have a lot of scenes where they're in a lab and they're talking about different things that happened. And Dory, do you want to explain that scene a little bit? Because even though this is a totally different topic, I think that it relates to the visual concept of what we're going for.
Yes. And that's actually been a challenge that we've had in doing the script, is that there's a lot of scientific information that needs to be explained as part, for the audience to be able to understand. And so we want to try to make it, though, as visual as possible, because if you just have two scientists talking to each other, that's not going to be as compelling as if you have something more visual. And we really like this scene, and the idea of using pins to put up the pictures. And so we were wanting to try to incorporate that somehow into there's a scene where Dr. Kelsey is talking to a chemist at the FDA, and they're discussing that the rats are not falling asleep, and this is a sedative, and so it's supposed to be what's going on. Why is it that the rats aren't falling asleep? They must not be absorbing the same as humans. And it could be a scene that could be very complicated to follow, but we think by adding visuals like this, that this will really help the audience to be able to understand it in an entertaining way.
Yeah. And the same with Maggie as she's figuring out what happened to her baby. So, okay, let's see the last part of the scene.
Then.
Not quite.
Great. Now what?
Just got off the phone with Ron Ziegler.
Who? White House press secretary. This won't be good either.
Ziegler remembered this article from a couple years ago and showed it to the president this morning, who thought it was a great idea.
Thought what was a great idea?
Okay, for those of you watching and you don't know what that means, the article that he's holding up is a husband and wife, and the husband is actually an astronaut. So what he is suggesting here is that his wife actually join the astronauts and be one of the applicants that is trying to go into space. And it's a really funny kind of way that they bring her into the story, but it's also really inspiring to see her step into the same workplace as her husband. And just exploring this world as women in the 60s is so fun. And I just think that everything about it's so colorful.
Yeah, I also thought it was so interesting how they talk about it in the show, about the women. It's like a joke. It's like, oh yeah, haha, we're gonna bring them in to be astronauts, but we'll see how they do it or whatever. And then the women prove themselves, and the men are just kind of like, oh wow, okay, you can do this, and it's just a really inspiring thing, I think, to see that once they're given the chance, they are able to step up and demonstrate, how they can how they
Yeah.
can handle this and how they can do
Yeah.
it.
Okay, so that reminds me of the love story in Pharma because there's so many things packed into this film. It's not just a downer or a depressing movie. There is a love story between Frankie and Ellis, and you see this incredible marriage and how they're having to fight for each other while she's going up against this giant corporation and her own government entity. And you get to see what that marriage looks like. And obviously, it was not easy. I mean, she was out working and he was sometimes burning the lasagna trying to feed the kids. And there's all these different social type settings where you don't think about how it would have been for her to be in the workplace and him supporting her. It was a big deal. And I mean, people didn't approve of it. They were like, you're supposed to stay home while your husband goes out and he does what he needs to do for the family. So I think it's important that we also point out the love story there because Ellis, her husband, is so incredible and he supports his wife and he is her rock. And so I want to show a clip from On the Basis of Sex just because I want to take a look at the relationship and how they built it because it's another woman stepping into power who has an incredible man behind her who is supporting her along the way. So this is a little bit of the producers talking about how they built this love story. Dory, was it hard for you? Was that maybe a challenge when you were writing to consider, the different layers and how you're going to include this relationship among all these other struggles and challenges that Frankie has?
Yeah, it definitely was because I didn't want to make it look like it was easy. And, because even in the best marriages, you have arguments and you have disagreements. And I wanted to really portray that and have Frankie and Ellis argue, but in a way that like really demonstrated how much love and respect they did have for each other. But that also, this was a really stressful thing that they were going through. Ellis also, he ended up being, a candidate for the Assistant Surgeon General of the United States. So he had his own career as well. And, Frankie making these waves was putting pressure on his career. And there's a lot of dynamics going on there, also with her kids, used to seeing all of the moms at home and why wasn't she? And so there's all of these things in there. And so it was challenging. I do think that we were able to accomplish it in the script, but it's definitely not all roses for them. They definitely have their moments, but you can see how much they love each other.
I would definitely compare it a little bit to the relationship that they have in this movie. So we'll play this.
You've been ready for this your whole life. So go in there and let the judges see the Ruth Ginsburg I know.
On the Basis of Sex is about a case that changed hundreds of laws for women. But at the heart of this story is a love story.
I need to make a good impression.
Got it wrong. It's not the dress, it's you.
The film explores a relationship that was very supportive. He's never going to take me seriously.
I love her, by the way.
You're the smartest person here.
Phenomenal
Just stand
actor.
up and say what you know.
Ruth and Marty's marriage was an equal partnership on every level. And in the 50s, that was a rare thing.
Is she okay?
Should be fine.
I mean, they wouldn't have been able to have 2 kids and careers if they weren't really interested in helping each other out.
This case is sex-based discrimination. It could topple the whole damn system. We see them overcoming some pretty difficult situations. So it's a wonderful way to tell Ruth and Marty's story. We're never giving up.
Their love story of almost 60 years is a true inspiration and something we all should aspire to.
I love that so much because when you think about people who are making an incredible impact on society, no matter what that accomplishment is, and they're in a marriage and they have a family, it takes 2 people supporting each other and lifting each other up for that to really happen. And I think that is really evident in Frankie and Ellis's marriage. I don't think there's any way that Frankie could have done the work she did if she didn't have an incredible husband just like was portrayed in that movie on the basis of sex. So I enjoyed that element of the movie, and it gave it different layers for me. Instead of just feeling like I'm walking around watching a court case, it could be, the same trap for Pharma, where you feel like you're just walking around following this woman at the FDA, but that's not the case. Her life was very complicated, and she had to overcome so many challenges within her home life, and the societal impact of working around other women, maybe going to church and feeling judged by other women, or going to her daughter's recital, or showing up to her daughter's recital late, or forgetting the school bake sale. I mean, there's all these things that kind of play into the expectations that were placed on Frankie during the time period.
Yep. Absolutely. And I'm really glad that you showed that clip about their relationship, because that's a very, very important part of the script. That's just the heart of the story, is her relationship. We start out with her relationship with Ellis, and we end with her relationship with Ellis. Like, that is what it is. And he's there by her, supporting her through all of it. And there's a lot of pressure from a lot of different sides that she's facing. But yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like you said, it's not just, a sad or discouraging movie. Like, there's a lot of really heartfelt moments in it.
Yeah, I agree. And when we were talking about, the complexities of her navigating all of these things, there was another one where talking about that, especially right here with, we're already talking about on the basis of sex. There's another clip. Let's see if I have this one of her introducing herself for the first time. I thought that was really interesting. Let's see if I can pull that one up to share with you guys. Let's see. Okay, before we go back to that one, let me talk about this, because it's been top of mind for a lot of people. Let's jump around to Lessons in Chemistry and come back to On the Basis of Sex, because Lessons in Chemistry has been top of mind for a lot of people. I know that it's trending on Apple right now, and I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw the trailer for Lessons in Chemistry, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the same story. But it's not. It totally has a different twist. It's about a brilliant woman in the 50s and 60s who is a brilliant chemist, but ends up with her own cooking show, but inspires a bunch of women along the way. So I want to take a look at that one, because I think that visually, this one is really, really close to what we would love to see for Pharma.
Five, four, three.
Let's begin, shall we? In life, discoveries usually lead to more questions. The only constant variable is the unexpected. We can't control it. It's only when you look backwards that you see how it was all connected. Let's begin, shall we?
That's perfect.
I like to cook. It's just chemistry.
You're on the verge of a major scientific breakthrough.
This institution has a reputation based on the world-class scientists, not the theories of a pretty lab tech.
We have rules.
You're firing me.
Just stop your crying, it's a sign of the times.
I would like to offer you a job as the host of our cooking show.
Are you concussed?
No. You are poised to become a TV star.
Welcome to the final show. We're live in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome, viewers. This is Supper at 6. Do I need a catchphrase?
Don't overthink it.
Never understood what that meant.
I stand proudly with the overlooked workhorse of the kitchen, women, and baked potatoes.
What the? Just stop your crying of the time of your life.
You've got something almost no one has.
Breaking through the atmosphere.
A platform. What you say matters.
Politics don't belong in the kitchen. A man wants his wife to make him a drink after a long day at work.
Why do you assume that his day was longer than hers? Why don't you make them drink?
Just stop your crying, it's a sign of the times.
You
You are what I treasure most in this world. Not because you are pretty, not because you are smart, but because you love me and I love you.
I can do it. You think you can't do it, and you do it anyway.
Your ability to change everything starts here. Children set the table. Your mother needs a moment to herself.
Ah, I love it so much. Oh man, that is truly what I kind of aspire to for Pharma. I really want to encompass all of that. It goes back to the layers we talk about. You see the romance, you see the struggle, you see beauty and brain, so to speak. And she's such a just wonderful actress on top of that. So I'm excited about whoever it is that we hire to play Dr. Frances Kelsey. Don't forget, you should give us your suggestions in the comments. We've had some really good ones. And now that the strike is over, we are very close to being able to make an offer to talent, and we cannot wait. That is the most exciting part, I feel like, about all of this is the casting and finding the perfect person, because then you really start to see it all come together. Brie Larson is really wonderful in Lessons in Chemistry. And I'm not going to lie, when I first started, I called up Dory and I was like, I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit slow to start out with. But I was so wrong. I mean, it picks up really, really fast, and I was hooked. I think I binge watched 4 episodes one night. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it because I think you'll get a really good feel for the style of Pharma. It probably encompasses the style and visual elements of the movie the most. And I still think we maybe have more of the themes of Dopesick and Painkiller, maybe, but the style of Lessons in Chemistry. What do you think, Dory?
Yeah, I think it's really neat that we're seeing all of these different shows and movies, and those are all kind of melded together in Pharma, and they're all popular in their own right, right? Like these are all popular shows that we're talking about, and we have pieces from all of these in it. We have the theme of the pharmaceutical companies and how they've acted. We have, from All Mankind is a lot about politics and how the government, will intervene in the work of the agency that could affect the safety. And then we have the love story, and we have women in the workplace and all of these different things that are also popular and really like top of mind in public consciousness right now. And we already have all of that in one package.
Yeah, that's a really great point. You're right. It is all wrapped up into one. Okay, politics. We hadn't really talked as much about that. Man, I've had some real life experience here lately with politics because aside from us making this incredible movie, I have been working with living thalidomide survivors here in the US. And just recently, Australia recognized their survivors for the first time. They issued a national apology. And if I'm not mistaken, they actually have a compensation package in place now that is going to provide assistance to the survivors. Well, I started working with survivors in the United States, and we've been back and forth with legislators. We have gone and stood on the steps of the Senate building and at the House. And it's been incredibly infuriating to see this tangled web up close. And what I mean by that is we'll have somebody say, yes, it's a go. We're going to pass this resolution or this bill. And then all of a sudden, somebody else is backing out. And what most people don't realize is that who supports politicians? There are lobbyists and there are people who are in big pharma that are feeding money to our politicians. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, we have lobbyists for big pharma in DC. I think that's questionable in my opinion. I mean, Dory, on the legal side, you know a little bit more maybe about politics than I do, but do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I mean, I personally have thought that lobbyists being so involved in politics is bad for a long time. And it's not only on just one side or another. It's not even like a partisan issue. It's just across the board. There's a lot of big money for a lot of private industries that have access to the politicians, and they influence how the laws are made. And we definitely know that is the case with pharmaceutical companies. And it makes it very, very difficult to get something passed that we think really should be a no-brainer. I mean, there was a recall in the US. It was very clear that everybody acknowledged that it did happen here. And there was
Yeah.
a lot of sample pills given out, and there was even a recall. So it's a little mind-boggling to see how this could be a controversial resolution to simply recognize that it happened here.
Yeah.
But I'm not completely surprised because, that's sort of the way that politics works now. And
Yeah.
it's very hard to get anybody to come to the table about
Well,
it.
we're still going to be fighting really hard. And there are people like Dr. Frances Kelsey who were in power positions that stood up and said, this isn't right. And I'm going to do something about it. And there have been other people in history that have done the same thing. There is a clip from Dopesick I'm going to play. And this clip is about the people who could not be paid off. They're the ones who said, regardless, this is a bad thing and you can't pay us enough money not to tell the truth. So here's the scene from Dopesick.
Serious issue.
This is John Brownlee, U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Virginia.
I've taken care of West Virginia.
Brownlee is the U.S. attorney that covers Appalachia. That's the region where that nun and that country doctor rejected your offer.
I said it's taken care of. The FDA isn't going to respond to their petition.
But this problem goes deeper than a petition. John Brownlee is former Army, spent 4 years in the infantry, left the military to go to law school with the intention to be a prosecutor. His father is currently the Secretary of the Army. Now, I'm telling you this because he has opened a secret grand jury into Purdue Pharma.
Since when?
We think maybe 4 or 5 months ago, but we're not exactly sure.
Call the governor or a senator.
They have no authority over
Yeah,
U.S.
call the governor or a senator. They'll fix
Now,
it.
these are the assistant U.S. attorneys running the case, Rick Mountcastle and Randy Ramsayer. Both men are top prosecutors and are driven by a strong sense of justice. Ramsayer, he referees local high school sports and has a deep connection to the region. Mountcastle used to prosecute mobsters and converted to Christianity at the age of 40.
Why are you telling me all this?
So that you understand they cannot be bought. They cannot be pushed off the case. They will not be seeking our employment when they leave office, like the U.S. attorney in Maine.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it there because it's a little bit longer. But are you kidding me? Ah, man, this scene is so powerful to me. I mean, for a bunch of different reasons. One, because we have people who are actually standing up for justice. But two is, I mean, just the whole idea that they think they could just pay somebody off. And the revolving door, how they talk about, well, we'll just pay them off and then they'll come work for us. What?
And that was happening in the 60s too. I mean, we have that in our script that, there are a lot of FDA employees that knew that after they left FDA, they would be going into work at pharmaceutical companies. So that's something that's been going on for decades, right?
Yeah.
And the deep sense of justice is something that came through so clearly to me when I did research about Dr. Kelsey and about Dr. Moulton, is that these women were just so committed to doing the right thing and to acting with integrity. Dr. Moulton also, put a lot of pressure on her bosses to have adequate labeling on medication so that people were well aware of the side effects before they took them. And that they both just had such a deep sense of justice that at great personal cost, they were willing to go forward. And Ashley and you and I talk about this all the time, is we're like, this is what Frankie would have done. Like, having like the things that we do as well. Like, it's so important to us because we also have that deep sense of justice and that integrity of like, no matter what, you need to stand up for what's right.
Okay, I talked about this in an interview. I think it was maybe last week or the week before, but someone asked me, why am I drawn to stories like this? And I said, because I think along with a lot of people who watch these movies, we aspire to be like these people or these characters that we're watching. We aspire and we hope that we would do the right thing when challenged, that we would have character and we would say, no, this is not okay. And that we would speak out against injustice. And for me, I mean, that is my heart for sure, is just to fight for those who maybe can't fight for themselves, or when someone's doing something wrong, I'm going to say they're doing something wrong. I just think it's really important to have character and integrity. And I know that we're on the same page when it comes to that. And Dr. Frances Kelsey, man, she was incredible to be able to stand up like she did and be a whistleblower and call out these things that were happening in the FDA and Big Pharma, especially in the 60s. So we're really excited about turning her life into a movie. We cannot wait. And the reason that we've talked about these shows tonight and we've really shown you a lot of these clips from period pieces is because now is the time. I mean, it is top of mind for a lot of people, and it is the perfect time to just kind of jump on the train and build off of that momentum. And we're getting so much closer to going into production. If we get to $2 million, we're going to take off on this train and we're going to start filming. That's all it takes to get us into production is $2 million. We've raised over $650,000 in investment so far. So if you have not invested yet, please consider making an investment. If you can't invest, we totally get it. Just like, share, this live stream, all of our posts, help us put it out there. That's a free way to help us. But this is a movie that we believe is going to be a classic. It's going to be something that people are going to continue to watch for a long time, that is going to have an incredible impact, we feel like, around the world, because this was a global tragedy. So please go to investinpharma.com if you haven't invested yet, because this is an opportunity to own stock in the film. This is not a donation, though. If you want to donate, there's a different way to do that. But if you go to investinpharma.com, you actually have the opportunity to own a part of this movie. And what does that mean? That means that if the movie is profitable, then your investment is profitable and you participate in that profit for as long as the movie continues on. It's a really awesome opportunity that most people don't usually get, because the people who make movies are usually studio executives or high net worth individuals, and they have millions and millions of dollars. But this is an opportunity where you can own a piece of the movie for as little as $100. Now, here's where it gets really fun. If you are looking for the ultimate Christmas present right now and you are shopping for that person that you just do not know what to get them, everybody has that person on their list. Or maybe you know someone who is a movie buff or an aspiring actor, you can get them an amazing Christmas gift, and for $1,000, they get a spot in our movie. Guaranteed. They will get a spot in our movie, and you can see more information about the perks on the page investinpharma.com, and you can learn more about how you can be in the movie, or you can gift that to someone that you love. We have a lot of people who have already signed up for that perk and are going to be in the movie because they decided to invest in that level. So we're really excited to have people who are investors, as well as people following our journey, that are going to be in the movie once we go into production. It's super exciting. Okay. Now, if you've been watching, then we're really happy you're here, and we want to reward one of you. And we are going to give away a $25 Fandango gift card, because we know you all love movies and you love us and you're here. So we have a little trivia giveaway surprise. We love to do these when we're on live streams, and you never know at what point in the live stream we're going to do it. So tonight we have one question for you. Just one question. And the first person who can answer this question right will get the prize. What family is portrayed in the show Painkiller? That's it. Get the answer right first, and you win the Fandango gift card. We will mail it out to you, and you can get to watch either something at home, or you can go to the theater and have an experience. Are we going to count that? Is that?
It's so close.
I know.
Ramona, it's so close.
I
Not
know.
quite. Try again.
I don't think we can count that one. Okay, answer this question first. What family is portrayed in the show Painkiller? You guys, you have Google. You're on a computer or a phone. I am not going to suggest that you cheat, but who was that? Okay, is it Deb? I'm not sure. It's D-Eb. So D-Eb or Deb. You got that right. So yay. Wait, okay, Deb, I do have a question for you. Are you in the UK? You guys can use Fandango there? Because if you're in the UK and you can use Fandango, great, we'll send it to you. But if not, let us know and we'll figure out a different thing that we can send you. Or we can maybe send something digital. We'll figure it out. Anyway, yes. Deb is right. It was the Sackler family, and it's someone that we've been talking about a lot because of Dopesick. And there is also the show Painkiller. So Dopesick and Painkiller are both on the same topic, which is something that we've talked about a lot, because oftentimes TV shows and movies sometimes are made about the same thing. but they're really great in different ways. So, for example, there's a lot of people who really like Dopesick, and I prefer Painkiller. I just like the way it was told. I thought it was a little bit faster, and I don't know, it really pulled me in. So I appreciate that one, while a lot of other people like Dopesick. But my point is that shows and movies are often made about the same topic all the time, and they do equally well, and they came out around the same time. So it's obviously hot, and people are talking about it. So Deb, thank you so much for playing our little trivia game. We are going to wrap it up, but we have one more announcement for you all. If you didn't win the gift card tonight or the giveaway, you have the opportunity to get some Christmas cash. And here is how. We are going to launch a 50-50 raffle. So what is a 50-50 raffle? I was shocked to know that Dory had no idea what a 50-50 raffle was.
Never heard of
Ramona
it.
said, did Ramona say 40-40? 50-50. So it's a 50-50 raffle. A 50-50 raffle is where, and this is where you can go to get your tickets. This is how it works. We are going to be accepting charitable donations throughout the month of Christmas and December, throughout until, guys, sometimes on these live streams, I'm just like, I'm like, say words, Ashley. I feel like I do that at least once in every live stream. I'm going to make a compilation of me just having bloopers. Anyway, throughout the month of December until Christmas, we are going to do a raffle, and we're going to raise whatever money we can. And the person who wins the raffle is going to get half of all of the money that we raise. So it's a really fun way to get some Christmas cash. It will be a really great Christmas gift for someone. And you can donate for a ticket for as little as $10. So I'm sorry, I'm distracted because Andrew's over here making fun of me.
The
in
post
comments.
hummus. Wait, how do you say it, Ashley? How do you say it?
I don't want
You guys didn't see our last live stream. Ashley was trying to say posthumously, like
I was still going to say it
death,
wrong.
and she said, "What did you say, Ashley?"
Posthumously.
Post hummus. That has to go in the blooper reel for sure.
Yes, that will go in the blooper reel. Thanks for reminding me of that, Andrew. I'd forgotten, but great. I'm so glad. David, my husband, made a lot of fun of me for that too. Oh my gosh, I'm hot. I'm so embarrassed now. Thanks, Andrew. Okay. Back to the raffle. You will win half of whatever the jackpot is. So let's say that we raise $10,000, then the winner will get $5,000. And it's only a $10 entry for one ticket. So you can buy as many tickets as you want. You can buy 10 tickets. You can buy just one ticket. It only takes one ticket to win. So $10, you're entered. Oh yeah, and your donation,
which is great for the end of the year because the end of the tax year is almost here.
She's right. She is right. But yeah, as little as $10. It is a charitable donation. So, and you do not have to be present to win. Got to be in it to win it. Yeah, you do got to be in it to win it, though, Ramona. $10, you could win half of our jackpot, whatever we raise. We'll keep you guys posted on what the raise is. We will send out an email with all the details. But you can go to pharmathemovie.com/5050. Alrighty, and we'll answer any last minute questions. Let's check those out before we sign off. Let's see. Us too, Debbie. Hi, Debbie. Debbie is our lead investor for this round, and she invested $100,000 in this round of crowdfunding on WeFunder. Again, it's an investment. It was a big investment. We're so lucky and blessed to have Debbie. We're so grateful, and we completely agree with what you're saying, Debbie. I hope people will be inspired by the true story. Fiction heroes' stories get loads of followers and attention, yet this is a hero that actually lived and positively impacted thousands of American families. Amen. I totally agree. We are very, very, very excited about making this movie. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Ramona, thank you. You can totally see me as Barb. I cannot wait to bring that woman to life. I think she's going to be so fun to play. She's amazing.
And you also want to shop for all the dresses.
Oh gosh. I can't wait. The wardrobe for Pharma, I promise you guys, is gonna be next level. I will not have it either way. Terry said Julia on HBO Max is a 1960s time period, well written, and has supporting husband behind Julia Child. Shows how women are treated at work. Very witty and well written. Carol, good time period movie also. Okay, I haven't seen Carol, but I have seen snippets of Julia, and it looks really good. But now that you're recommending it, maybe I'll give it a shot and actually watch the series. I saw the movie Julie and Julia, which was kind of an interesting movie. It was Amy Adams and Meryl Streep as Julia Child. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but that was really interesting. That was where I was first introduced to Julia Child and heard who she is. Okay, yeah, Ramona is going back to me playing Barb, and she said I have the sass. I do have the sass.
That's for sure.
No one can disagree with that. Okay. As we sign off tonight, I just want to remind you that you can keep up with us by signing up for our VIP list. What is our VIP list? It is a way to get exclusive information, and it only goes out to our VIP list. So, for example, last week we did a giveaway for a mystery movie box, and our VIP list were the only people who got the email to find out about it. And we had a winner we announced earlier this week, and she is going to get a lovely mystery movie box in the mail. And we love being able to share exclusive things with you guys behind the scenes that we don't always share on social media. And it's a way for us to actually connect with you one-on-one. We do answer our emails. So if you email us, you're getting me or Dory or Jessica. You're actually getting a human response. It's not AI. We're really there. So join our VIP list. You can subscribe by scanning this barcode. And if you are not a person who uses barcodes, you can go to pharmathemovie.com and you can sign up there. So remember, we have a 50-50 raffle. You can see that on the website as well. And you should join our VIP list for other exclusive information and giveaways. We are going to send out a special behind the scenes kind of, what would I call this? It is exclusive content, but it's something that happens in development that people don't usually get to see. And it's called a mood board. And we are going to be sharing our mood board with investors only. So if you're an investor, be on the lookout. You're going to get an email with some behind the scenes looks at what our mood board is going to be for the feature film. And we are very excited to share that with you. Okay, guys. Well, that kind of wraps it up for us tonight. We hope that everybody has a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year if we don't see you before then. And please join our list, stay in touch, like us on social media, and say hello.
Ashley, can I add one more thing before we go?
Oh yeah.
Yes, Terry, I see that you said, and thank you for being here. You're interested in investing. We're waiting for us to get closer to the 2 million mark. We do have some special pricing that's early bird pricing and early bird terms right now, which is a benefit of coming in earlier rather than later. So if you guys have any questions on that, you can go to investinpharma.com and see all of those terms that we have there. But I just wanted to point that out because there are some benefits to coming in early, and we appreciate that, as that really helps to give us the momentum to get up to that 2 million mark to go into production.
Yes, absolutely. And then, there's no guarantee that the offering won't close before you get the chance to invest. That's another thing. We don't necessarily have to get to 2 million to close the offering. We may have the opportunity to utilize some private investment, as well as our tax incentives and some gap financing and other things that we are researching to be able to do that. So there is a possibility the offering will close before we get to 2 million. So if you want to make sure that you're a part of it, even if it's only a portion of your investment right now, and you want to access those early bird terms, then this is really the time to do it. Our offering will close on January 21st. Something that we love about doing a crowdfund, though, is that the SEC allows us to raise up to $5 million a year, which means that even though this is closing in January on January 21st, we will still be able to continue to raise up to $5 million within a 1-year period. So if we decide that, we want to continue to raise money into production, we may do that. We may not. But again, that's what Dory is saying. You might miss out on your opportunity if you don't do it now. And we'd love to have you. Okay. Thank you so much for that question, Terry. That was a great question. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate you following along and commenting. So, okay, guys, that'll do it. I hope you all have a great night. Anything else, Dory or Jessica, that I'm forgetting? All right. Everybody, have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thanks.